Oh, I need it.
Oh, you need it?
Here's where I got my stuff.
Give me a second. Try to get rid of that.
Am I good right here?
Hold on. Okay. Give me just a second and I'll give you this when it's ready to go.
All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here. The transmission of our COVID-19 continues to spread in our city, and the numbers, they just continue to grow. And more records are being done daily. Just yesterday alone, we had 128 cases in the county, with 28 of those cases here in the city of Killeen. Because of the current public health situation and the number of cases that continue to grow in our city, I'm getting ready to sign Executive Order number 4, or Directive number 4 of our local disaster declaration for the city of Killeen that mandates the wearing of masks in all commercial entities. I felt that this action was necessary and the right thing to do, popular or not, to help protect the health and safety of our citizens and to try to keep this virus from continuing to spread in our community. So as of 12:01 a.m. on Thursday morning, July 2nd, 2020, and continuing through 11:59 p.m. on Friday, July 31st, 2020, face coverings will be required to be worn under the conditions stated in this order. I think it's important to issue this order now in order to have the greatest possibility of the effects of reducing the spread of this COVID-19 virus without another shelter in place that we had prior, or another instance where you have to shut down our businesses. With this order, businesses must adopt health and safety policy as described in this order, and at a minimum, the policy must require that all employees and visitors wear a face mask covering in businesses when you cannot assure sufficient and physical distancing of 6 feet apart. It kind of mirrors what the county was going to do, so we've kind of taken that one. So if you have copies of that, it's pretty much in line with that one. But I think that most businesses in the city, as I go out and talk to them, most of them are already doing this because of the previous order that the county was getting ready to issue but didn't. There are certain areas I just wanted to point out that face coverings are not required. You know, they're not required while driving alone in your car, or passengers who are part of the same household are within that car. They're not required when exercising. You know, if you're exercising inside, or you have enough distance, you're inside a gym and there's enough distance between you and somebody else, you have 6 feet, they're not required there. And the rest we'll put out as a city to let everybody know the exact details. Churches, places of worship, they're not considered commercial businesses, and they follow what the governor's orders require. But with all that said, I just want to point out that I believe that this is a small thing we can all do in order for us to mitigate the spread while we continue to live and enjoy our daily lives as close to normal as possible. You know, Killeen is a great city, and I appreciate the support our businesses who have already implemented policies that mandate masks in their establishment. But just to let everybody know why I'm doing this, what made me do this? What made me do this is hearing from our senior population. They may be a small percentage of our population when you compare them to our younger ones here in Killeen. But I know that they truly understand what sacrifice is. And a lot of them here are veterans. And they all tell me that wearing a mask is not much of a sacrifice in order to save some lives. And they should know. I know we live in a city that truly understands what it means to enjoy the freedoms that we have. Just recently, Killeen was selected as the winner of the 2020 Most Patriotic City in Texas by Insurify. And that's a big honor because we are in Texas. It is based on communities with the greatest share of active service members and veterans who have risked their lives in sacrifice of our nation. And Killeen tops that list. So wearing a mask to me, even though I, for one, can tell you I don't like wearing them, is a tiny price to pay so that others do not get sick. Some of those others that I'm talking about who are getting sick are some of those seniors and some of our veteran citizens in our city who have sacrificed so much for our country. I think the smallest thing I can do to show my appreciation is to wear a mask to protect them compared to a lot of our elderly here and most vulnerable who wore a uniform to protect us. Some of them are safe, but they feel that they are prisoners in their own homes because of fears that they may get infected if they go out. So as mayor, I am asking you to help me protect them and all our great citizens of Killeen who did so much to protect our freedoms we cherish so much. Let's now do what we can to protect them and each other from this war that we now have going on with this virus. Please wear a mask, not because it's mandatory, but because it's the right thing to do to protect our most vulnerable who live a life, who have lived a life of protecting us. So with that, I just want to say thank you, and I'm open for any questions. And I'm going to sign this real quick. So at this, I'm going to go ahead and sign this declaration. And with that, I'll take any questions.
What was that effective date range again?
The what?
What was the date range for this?
The date, it's effective 12/01, Thursday, so it's going to be tomorrow morning, 12/01. And then it goes all the way till the end of July. So it's pretty much the month of July, 31 July, 11:59 p.m.
Okay.
And again, it falls in line with pretty much the county had all the conditions are there. And I just want to point out again, I pointed this out when I was with the judge, that a lot of times, I had a lot of citizens call me and they thought they were going to get fined. And I say, this is not to fine our citizens. We can't legally, there's no way we're going to fine our citizens. This is to have the businesses implement that policy within our business, because according to the governor, we can mandate businesses have a requirement, a health plan in place that requires people visiting their business to wear a mask. And so that's pretty much it. If you don't wear one, we're not going to go around chasing you and saying we're going to fine you if you're outside or anything like that. But we can find businesses. One thing I didn't say earlier is that it does go into effect Thursday for the businesses, but there is a 5-day grace period there to get the businesses to allow them to implement those health plans. So, a lot of them are already doing that, so I don't think they need much time. But it goes into effect Thursday morning. So Friday morning, if they don't have a sign there, it doesn't mean we're going to go out there and fine them. We're going to give them 5 days grace period to allow them for us, because they need to get the message from us as a city that this is now a city ordinance, not a county, because there might be confusion. They thought it was a county, and then they were told there's no longer an ordinance for that, and now they got to be told that there's one for the city. So
what is the fine and who would enforce that? Would that be the code
The
enforcement?
fine is up to $1,000, and yeah, we have several people. Same, we have code enforcement, we have our police department, we have our healthcare officials. So anybody that falls within that parameter is able to enforce that fine. And I'm sure a lot of them will be called. This is one thing, I didn't get a chance to talk to our city manager, but I know that in the county level, there was a number set up for people that can call. They still call the mayor, but hopefully we'll get a number similar to what we did as a city before. We had a number set up. The library was manning that, but I haven't had a chance to speak to the city manager, see if there's some way that we can implement something like that. But I think it's going to be good. I think that most people have adjusted and are continuing to adjust it as they see that this virus continues to spread. And they're starting to adjust that this is a reality. This is something that I see that more and more. It's becoming less of a political issue, because I think that this has been the reason why there's been some resistance, but it's becoming less of a political issue, which is good, and more of a safety issue. Everybody understands the safe benefits as to doing something simple as wearing the mask. Any other questions?
Are there any exclusions for people who might think they have health issues for wearing a mask?
Definitely. If you have health issues, there's exclusions for that. We really have no way. I mean, you just got to say, I'm this, I'm that. We don't have anything set up where we're going to say, okay, show us your doctor's notice or anything like that. You're just going to have to take their word for it. But, there is exclusions if you have some kind of conditions or health issues or asthma issues that you can't wear a mask. You just let the business know, and I'm sure they'll accommodate.
And so a directive like this is probably open to extending it if it needs to be.
Yeah.
But once you get to that point where you feel that it's okay to rescind the order and have it be done, what's kind of the baseline to determine that it's been a success?
Well, we as always, we always continue to monitor the situation, work with our county officials, our state officials, and hopefully we'll see our numbers. Luckily, even though I'm implementing this plan, we're still at a point where I think we're ahead of this. We've only had like 13 deaths, and when you compare that to some of these other cities out there, I think that's a good thing. By implementing this, it's saying we don't want it to get to that point where other cities have gotten. And I'm sure that we'll continue to see our numbers rise, but we just don't want them to rise astronomically. We want to see what the effects are going to be as people start wearing masks, and hopefully that's a positive. And obviously we're going to follow what the governor's does, because we're kind of monitoring what his orders come down, and I think that he's trying to do something hopefully similar to this without having to mandate that business close or lockdowns like we did before. So,
do you feel that you'd still be issuing this directive if the county had not issued a similar directive and then scaled it back?
yeah, I think I would have. I would have done it last week, and I made note of that. When I met with the judge, that was the question he had asked, if us as a city, if I as mayor would do it, and I let him know that I would. So we were prepared to do this last week. And the attorney had all the documentation ready to go if that would have happened. So when we got the news, then my first question was why? Since initially I thought that they were going to do it. So I just wanted to get some clarification. Maybe there was some kind of legal remedy that happened or something. So before I did it, I just wanted to make sure I got clarification as to why. And, it was just that the court decided that they didn't want to do it. I think the judge was pretty much for it, but the court, they had different opinions. And that's one of the things that as mayor, I did, we have a council, and the council, by all means, I think, very supportive. They've kind of let me know their opinions. I just want to point out, we do have two of our council members here. Our Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Kilpatrick, is here. He's one that I've taken a lot of advice, and he's one of the reasons why I do this, because, he's in a situation that needs, that we do have to take care of him. So, but Mr. Menking is here and very supportive of my decision. I think that if it had to come before the council, I think pretty much we'd have a unanimous vote in the direction of mandating masks. So.
And do you think other cities in Bell County will follow suit and issue
It's hard to say. I don't want to predict what they're going to do. They have to, each city is different. I think that the reason that I did our city, because we are the largest city, we have a lot of businesses, we have more people kind of intermingling with each other, and that may not necessarily be in every city. You know, some cities have more spaces, more that people can be more sparse between each other, and they may not need to do that. So each city is different, and I'll just let each city decide on their own. That's their prerogative and their job. So.
And so when the county decided to scale that back, the commissioners, some of the commissioners did so because they seem to have the question. They didn't know what businesses were necessarily supposed to do if people came in and refused to wear masks, and they didn't know how to negotiate that, so they just scaled the whole thing back. Is that a question that you guys have been able to answer?
Well, and a lot of them are grateful for us doing this, because I've talked to a couple of them, and they appreciate that we've kind of taken the burden off them having to do that. Because a lot of them that have tried to follow this policy, and there was not an ordinance in place that implements it, it was up to them. And so why do we have to wear a mask? Because my manager said so, or because I say so, we want to keep our employees. Now, I feel we've taken that burden off of them. You know, that's the city ordinance. You know, we have to follow it. If we don't follow it, we're going to get in trouble. So we have to do that because that's a city requirement. So I'm trying to help them as much as I can based on the feedback that I've received from them. And a lot of them are very supportive because they're already doing it. They have to have their employees wear masks. And so it just makes sense. If your employees are wearing masks, you know, why not people coming into that business have them do the same thing?
When it comes to patrons, like you get a group of 5 patrons come in, they refuse to wear masks, they don't have any health concerns, they just don't want to, they think it's silly. What can the business do at that point?
Well, and that's where we're going to have to get our code enforcements, our KPD and all that. You know, it's an ordinance, so it's enforceable. And so, you know, if they make too much of a thing about it, I think businesses are going to try to use as much common sense as possible. But there are situations, if I read, where people really get nasty, and that's what we have our police department for. So, I mean, if there's incident where there's something bad, you know, physical violence or something like that, it's just like anything else. You know, it's a crime.
So if they refuse to leave, they can call the police?
If they refuse to leave, I mean, hopefully we don't get to that point, but you know, most of them hopefully understand why we're doing that. And yeah, they can call, you know, we're going to have something set up where we can call them. They can call me. There's my cell phone until we find a number. I'll go out there.
And if you can estimate, about how many phone calls, emails did you and the council receive from people wanting to implement this?
I think I've received more. It depends on which way they think we're going, but this past week I've received a lot more in favor of doing this because of what the county did. You know, to be honest, you know, I've received some against it, but I know that it was reported that it's kind of evenly split. But from the mayor's perspective, I've reached a lot more. I would say I received about 80% of them are in favor of doing something like this versus the few that are not. And I wouldn't say it's a lot of calls. You know, we have a population of over 150,000. When I mean a lot of calls, it's probably more in the 20s and 30s, you know, not hundreds. So, yeah, and based on that, I think that's pretty good. So, all right, we're good? So wear your mask. All right, thank you. All right. Oh, I forgot. I'm walking away with all you guys' mics.
Can you get a shot of you to